Welcome to a Wolf Moon edition of Gentle Somatic Yoga. And as we go through the class, or maybe toward the end, I'll explain a little bit more significance of this particular full moon. The wolves were howling, obviously, and they're howling because it was like barren winter. But there's a lot of cool kind of energetic significance. But we're going to get started on the ground doing some somatic work that I think will prepare our side bodies in particular to do the moon salutation. And then we'll work our way eventually up to do the moon salutation. And then once we're finished that, come back down. Okay? So spread your blanket out. And if you don't mind, just lay down on your back briefly in any sort of comfortable way, just to do a check-in, just to see how you are this morning as you're starting your class. Okay, so decide if you're okay with palms up or palms down. That's an interesting thing for certain people. So play around with that as you're initially laying here. Where do you feel more comfortable? Do you prefer your palms up or your palms down? I prefer my palms up. I feel like it's a lot of effort for me to put my palms down, but other people, based on their posture and other things, palms down might feel more comfortable. The other thing to check in on is if you feel okay stretching your legs fully out, or if that already bothers your low back. If it bothers your low back with your legs completely stretched out, you might want to take something under the knees initially, because it is nice to have a check-in where all parts of our body are touching the ground if possible. So turn the head side to side gently, just to see how the neck is. And then shrug a shoulder up towards your ear. So the back of your shoulders against the ground, and then gently turn your head toward that shoulder and then release it down. Same thing on the other side. Shrug the shoulder up. So you're not lifting it off the ground. You're just maneuvering it, sliding along the ground, and then turning your head toward it, and then going back down. And then if you could, draw your hands up toward the sky and literally move one arm maybe an inch or less further toward the sky than the other. So you should feel a shoulder gently come off the ground and then snuggle back into the ground. The other one off the ground, snuggle back in. And then that's a nice gentle movement. And then bend the elbows. I'm going to sit up so you can see this in this kind of style. Okay. And you might move that thing from under your knees. So this is goalpost style. And then just for a minute, let's just have one of the hands drop back and one of the hands drop forward. So again, we're doing gentle rotation of the shoulder in a really safe, soft way. Just getting things to start moving and flowing. Now let's add lower body into this. So the hand that's going back, have the knees gently float the same direction. So mine is right now, and then the left hand is coming down. And then come back to the center. Now you can add the head in as you feel a little more loose. but this is kind of like, this is also brain yoga, believe it or not. We're asking our arms to do something, our head to do something, our legs to do something. So you have to actually stay very present, very mindful of what you're doing, which is really good for the brain. All right, now spread the arms out into a T, widen the legs, and this time we're going to, and I'm going to show you sitting up again. This time you're going to do this with your arms. You're going to go like one hand is going to turn forward, one hand is going to turn backward. So it's like that. Okay, as you're windshield wipering your legs. So arms in a T, you can start with palms up. When your legs go toward the left, have that one turn like away from the leg, like upside down. And then the right one turns just palm down, and your head can go toward the right. So again, a lot going on. You don't have to make this a big movement. We're doing different things to loosen up our shoulders. And now we're getting the whole side body involved. Be really gentle. Stay within your range of motion. Don't be so concerned if you're not getting this exactly. But feel the rotation in the shoulder. All right, we'll do one more set of windshield wipers. Have the knees and feet super close together. This time, put the palms facing down on the top of your hips and let the knees gently go toward one direction. You can look the other way if that's okay for your neck and come back. Have the knees go toward the opposite direction. So your hands are sort of sliding across your belly. And this one should be felt maybe in a completely different area. All right. Stretch your legs completely out if you don't mind. Draw hands underneath head and neck. And we're going to do like the one that looks like a tree pose to crossing over. So engage the muscles slightly of the left leg. Let the right leg just be loose. Slide up like you're doing a tree pose. Now from here, release arms from under head and lift arms on the ground like you're doing a tree pose. Then come up to knee pointed to sky, foot flat. Reach under the knee. Lift and lower just a couple of times. You might point at the top, flex at the bottom. Point at the top, flex at the bottom. Place the foot on the ground. Allow the knee to gently roll over your other leg. So now your whole side body might be slightly lifted. You're on the inside of the foot. Slide the inside of the foot back to neutral and shake things out. And we'll repeat the whole thing on the other side. Start with hands under the head. Draw up the leg as if doing a tree pose. Release hands. Have knee point to sky, foot is flat. Reach under knee. Lift leg to sky, point. Lower leg flex. Lift leg point. Lower leg flex. Place foot back on the ground. And I'm not sure I did this on the other side. You might want to use the the hand to help the knee cross your midline. You're now on the inside of the foot and slide it back to neutral. And let's check in briefly. So, how are your side bodies feeling? Anything different between left and right? How about top to bottom? Check in. Scan yourself. Don't ignore the areas that are of discomfort. Face them and accept them and love them and be kind to them. Compassion and kindness. Now gently turn your head side to side again. We'll do one or two more things like this before we gently make our way to standing. So bend up knees, place hands under head. For a moment, feel the backs of your arms touching the ground deeply and tilt the chin up to the sky. So feel that engagement of the back body. At the same time, slightly lift your belly to the sky. So now you should have two little curves under your back off the ground. Go ahead and flatten that out. Feel that two more times. Feel the backs of the arms engaged, chin to sky. You now have a slight curve under your neck and shoulders. And now you're lifting the belly up slightly. You have a slight curve under the low back. And release to flat. We'll do this one last time like this. Backs of arms, chin to sky, lower back slightly off ground. You might be pressing your feet a little bit as well. And now soften and release. We're going to go the opposite way now. So you're curling your hips towards your rib cage, drawing belly in, tucking chin, maybe lifting head, but it's not necessary. And then release to neutral. Curling hips toward rib cage, belly pulls in, chin tucks, elbows toward each other. Maybe head comes off ground, maybe not. And release to neutral. Last time like this. Belly pulls in as ribs and hips come closer together. Chin tucks, elbows toward each other. And release to neutral. Now let's just do one or two times putting it all together. Backs of arms touch the ground deeply, chin to sky. Lower back slightly off ground as you press into the feet. Then come through neutral. Draw hips toward ribs, chin tucks, elbows toward each other. And release. Let's do this one more time. Feel the backs of the arms in the ground. Pull the chin a little bit to the sky. A little bit of an arch under your low back as you're pressing your hips slightly away. Come through neutral. Bring hips toward ribs. Chin tucks. Elbows come close together. And let's release all of that and stretch out one more time and see how we're feeling. If you need to make any minor adjustments, but then settle into the ground and check in. How are you feeling? What are you noticing? So taking your time, you can either roll directly up or roll to a side. And then if you're going to press yourself up, have your head be the last thing to come up and use your opposite arm to help you. Taking your time. Let's come to seated just for a minute before we transition all the way to standing. And check in a seated position, sitting up nice and straight and tall. Let's move things loosely just for a moment. Let's do rainbow arms. So rainbow arms is a very organic movement where you're just imagining that you are painting a wall in front of you very freely, drawing circles, any sort of paint job. This is our chance to be painters. Just to see what parts of the body are moving smoothly and what parts are not, are resisting. And then just move maybe your whole body circularly and then switching circular. So to transition to standing, well, you're going to want to move your blanket if it's on your mat, for one thing. And then you could make the blanket in a small fold if you decide you want to do the lunge on your knee, and it's not necessary to do the lunge on your knee, but I will demonstrate with it and also show you how to do it without. But you could go through a downward dog also to transition, or any sort of safe way to come up. So the reason I am folding this blanket is if I decide I want to transition through a low lunge rather than a high lunge. And you can do the moon salutation either with a low lunge or a high lunge. High lunges are better for people who don't like to get up and down. You might want one block too if you're going to end up doing the low lunge. So if you are, you're going to put this on the left side of your mat. So I am straddling my blanket only because I am going to come down on my knee, but again, I'm going to show this both ways. You don't have to transition onto your knee. All right, I think you can see me well enough, hopefully. Let's start with our hands at the heart and just take a few breaths. While you're standing here, I am going to read to you a little bit about the energy of the January wolf moon. So as you're breathing, the energy of the January wolf moon calls us to reflect on primal instincts and encourages us to unify with our pack, our friends and family, to weather life's challenges. In general, winters tend to be harder on people. It also urges introspection and invites us to examine our deepest needs and desires. The stark winter landscape illuminates, with its illumination, symbolizes purity and new beginnings. And under the moon's glow, we're urged to shed old habits and constraints that no longer serve us and use this as an opportunity for personal growth. And the other interesting thing is the alpha wolf. The alpha wolf stands as a symbol of power, strength, and leadership. So as the leader of the pack, the alpha wolf is not just a figure of authority, but a paragon of resilience and strategic prowess. So this is the time for us to develop our alpha wolf qualities as well. Okay. So as you're doing the moon salutation, see if you can embrace your alpha wolf qualities of prowess and resilience, and also reflect on how you can maybe deepen your connections with your pack, your wolf pack. All right, so draw hands up on an inhale. You can either go all the way up, or if your neck or shoulders are bothering you, keep it behind your head. And then we're going to lean to one side, come to the middle, lean to the other side, and middle. One more time. And then widen your legs, slightly bend your knees in a little bit of a squat, and imagine you're holding the full moon. We're going to move up and down in this a few times, strengthening our legs and lower body. Now take your left foot and turn it to the edge of your mat, and your right foot slightly turn in. Work your way in and out of a warrior two. So this is a somatic way of doing it, where we get our nervous system and our body used to a pose by moving in and out of the pose, engaging and disengaging the muscles. Now, maintain the pose. Place your back hand on your hip, your left hand on your neck, and just lean back and forward a few times. Side angle and exalting the warrior we're going to do. Now take the left hand, place it on your thigh, and you might use your right hand on your neck and lean forward a little bit, supporting the neck, strengthening the lower body. Straighten that knee, and then moving into triangle, slide the hand down. If your body feels warmed up enough to do this, you could stretch an arm to the sky, but there's no need to, especially if you have neck or shoulder issues. Okay, so here's a tricky transition. We're shifting now to face our long end of our mat. Now you're in a warrior one. So moving in and out of a warrior one. Use your breath. Now, if you can keep your front knee slightly straight, placing hands either on lower back, and you're moving in and out of a pyramid pose. Now, I no longer do a deep pyramid pose. I will demonstrate the deeper one. If you're going to move all the way down to the ground, you would place a hand on this block and go deeply in. But I don't really do that anymore. It's too much for my back. So I just move in and out. So you're either going to just do the high lunge here, which crescent moon lunge, or if you're transitioning to the ground, this is where your block can come in handy, and you're placing your right knee on the mat. But whichever lunge you're doing, you're just doing a crescent moon lunge. So you can be doing a standing lunge throughout all of this and not come down to the knee. Now, either from standing or from here, if you're down here, you're placing both hands on your block and pulling your way through. If you're standing, you're going back into this pose, and we're all transitioning to the other side. So you're either doing a high lunge now or a low lunge, okay? So whichever lunge you're doing, this is your crescent moon lunge. You're just moving in and out of it. Those of us that are on our knee, we're transitioning up. The rest of you are already up, and we're in some version of pyramid pose. Hands on the back body or on that block still, and you're moving in and out of a pyramid pose. So this moving in and out are called micro movements or feathering, and we do this primarily for the nervous system so that we're not going into a stretch reflex, which is sometimes a contraction when the nervous system gets triggered. Okay, all of us are transitioning to face the camera again. Your front knee stays straight initially as you're moving in and out of your, of course, now I'm forgetting the name of the pose. Why am I forgetting? I'll say age. All right, moving in and out of a warrior two. That was triangle. Thank you. Had a little bit of a brain freeze. And then keep that knee bent, and then supporting this neck, go back and forth in exalting the warrior. So you can see this is a lot of little movements, not big movements. Side angles, small movements can be just as effective and a lot safer for those of us that either have chronic pain or stiffness or just age-related things, that it's just not as safe to do things the way we used to do. So go ahead and turn yourself to face me. Let's go back and forth into a goddess pose. Full moon, squat. This is really good for our body. We're circulating lymph and blood. We're signaling to our nervous system it's safe. Work your feet back in. Lift your arms back up, either overhead or behind neck. And now you're going to lean to that side first. The other side. And let's draw our hands down to our chest and heart and check in. Just notice you should have a lot of kind of electrical currents moving up and down your side bodies. And hopefully you did this in a way that you did not pull any muscles or yank anything. You did this in a really safe, nourishing way. And you're breathing. We'll do one more going the opposite direction first because it's nice to cycle both directions, both for balance in the body as well as balancing your left and right hemispheres. So if you are using a block, you're now putting yours on the right side. And if you're either coming down to your knees or not in the lunge area, okay? So draw hands up to the sky on an inhale, lean toward the right on an exhale, back to the center on an inhale, lean to the left on an exhale, widen the feet, come down into full moon or goddess or horseman pose. Just pump your legs just a little bit. Shifting into a warrior two, facing that direction, moving in and out of a warrior two. And then side angle. We'll just do one of each now. Exalt the warrior, straighten front knee, triangle. Now your feet pivot to face the long end of your mat, going into a warrior one, or you are doing a pyramid just down to the knee. So you're either staying up in a warrior one, or you've come down onto your knee for the crescent moon. So if you're staying in the warrior one, when we transition down here, you'll transition through a wide-legged position. We're all transitioning to the other side. Those of you standing up, go into the warrior one facing this way. Those of you on your knee, go into a crescent moon lunge. And we're going to work our way up to standing and do one more lunge here. Shift into a triangle pose either with arm up or not. And shift into warrior two a few times. And side angle, leaning over. Reverse or exalt the warrior, leaning back. Shift your feet to face front. Go into a full moon pose for the last time of this moon. And very gently work your way in. Arms back overhead. Go off to your left. Back to the center. Right. Back to the center. Draw hands down to heart. And let's check in one more time and see how our energy is flowing. So we'll do a balance while we're standing here. And if your balance has been challenged for any reason recently, please either use one hand on the chair or one hand on the wall. It's not a bad thing to do. In fact, I love doing a tree pose where I'm starting close to the wall and I actually stick the side of my knee on the wall, supporting myself a little bit and getting that opening. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is back against the wall and then getting into some sort of tree pose like that. You could do that. And you can even do a tree pose just with the one foot sitting on top of the other foot with the knee slightly out. So these are a couple versions. So play around with whatever tree pose you want to do today. Breathe. Visualize beautiful stark trees in winter under the moon. Each one of these balances has different benefits. It's really interesting to notice. And before we come back to seated, let's do some sort of wide-legged forward fold. You could lean onto a chair or the wall or onto blocks or the ground and just widen your legs. Just shift your weight side to side a few times. Let things out with a sigh. Now, anytime we make a sound on an exhale, you are stimulating your vagus nerve, and your vagus nerve is so crucial for things like digestion, for blood pressure and your heart rate, for all the calming autonomic things that go on in your body that might need a little help. So make sounds when you exhale. All right, and let's come down to seated. We're finished our standing. So whatever things you want for the rest of the class, have nearby. Guess we did not use a strap today. Thought we might. So when you're doing anything involving the moon, it's great to do left side breathing, which is the side associated with the moon. That's the Ida breathing. So you can either do this completely energetically or you can actually use your hand. So if you're using your hand to seal off your right side, we're just breathing in and out of our left side a few times and just seeing how that feels. Maybe after 3 to 4 times, return to both side breathing. So to remain balanced, we should just do right side breathing as well. So go ahead and seal off either energetically or with your fingers, your left side to just breathe in and out of the right side. Notice the difference. This is a much more active side of breathing. So if you're trying to energize yourself, you would focus on right side breathing. If you're trying to relax yourself, you could focus on left side breathing. So now we'll do some Nadi Shodhana, which is breathing in one side and out the other. Since we're favoring the moon today, we'll start with the left, going in the left, out the right, and then continue back and forth with the last exhale going out the left. And just maybe do this 3 to 4 rounds. So start by sealing off your right, breathing in the left, close off the left, and breathe out the right. Now breathe in the right, seal off the right, and exhale out the left. In the left, seal the left, exhale right, in right, seal the right, and exhale left. Go back to normal breathing. Just check in. Check in with the hemispheres of your brain. See how they are. Check in with your left and right side bodies. And we'll do a seated twisting series here. So we haven't done much in the way of twisting today. So you can either sit in deer pose or you can sit in cross-legged, whichever one you prefer. I'm twisting that direction towards your left. So in the somatic tradition, we keep our eyes open our first time to check where we are going. We do 3 with eyes closed. And then the last time we open our eyes and see if we've gained range of motion. That's the pre and the post check. So pre-check, eyes open, engage muscles, look behind, pick a spot. And exhale, soften, release, slump over. Now, eyes closed for the next 3, focusing on felt sensations. Where are you feeling this? And where are you releasing? Are you really releasing muscles or are you holding tension? After the 3rd time, again, we will open our eyes to look behind us. Make sure you're completely softening when you get to the front. And do a post check. Hopefully you've gained some range of motion. If you're sitting with the leg behind or the leg in cross legs, stretch that leg out momentarily. Lean forward in some version of a forward fold. Don't press too hard. Maybe take note of how far. Face the side leg. Lift up on an inhale. Float down toward the leg on an exhale. Do this 2 more times. Reverse direction. Sitting up on an inhale, lengthen forward on an exhale, and lift. Now bending up that knee, place head close to the knee. Maybe it's here, maybe it's on the knee. Wherever it is, make sure that you can maintain the same distance as you start to slide the foot away. Now, at a certain point, it's going to create too much pull in the back body. So then you'll cut the connection and just let everything softly release. And then do this 2 more times. The idea is to hopefully try to get a little more range of motion each time. And third time. Face forward 1 more time. Go back into your forward fold and see if you've released, if you're able to get any closer to the floor with some comfort. Place hands behind back, lean back, open up, shift side to side. And then set up for your twisting series on the other side. Take your time. And let's go ahead, do the first twist with eyes open, checking your range of motion, softly coming back, releasing. Next 3 are with eyes closed, sensing the engagement and disengagement of muscles. Also noticing if this side feels completely different than the other side. After the third one, on what's actually your 5th one, you're going to reopen your eyes and look behind you and see if you're able to see a little further off. Take your time, gently lengthen your leg off to the side from whatever position you were sitting in. Check in on your sit bones. And let's lean over and see what's constricting our forward fold over here. Mine, it's underneath this leg. I can feel it. Face the leg, lift the arms gently, and just be like a waterfall. You're not pulling, you're not yanking. You're keeping it soft, flowing movement, using the breath. After the third time, we'll reverse. So sitting up, go forward first and lift up. Keep this nourishing, keep it feeling good in your body. Don't go into any pain while you're doing this. So if you have to make the movement smaller, make the movement smaller. Even though you are decreasing your range of motion in the movement, over time, it will actually increase your range of motion because we are working the nervous system, not just the muscles. Okay, so place your head somewhere close to your bent knee. Maintain a string between the head and the knee. Slide the foot away. At a certain point, you're going to feel too much tugging. Cut the string, softly release. 2 more times. The idea is hopefully each time you might be able to go a little further. You're preparing the body. And release. You're doing this in a nourishing, comforting, safe way, which is signaling to your nervous system to stay in a parasympathetic place, which is where you want to, the part you want in charge in order for your systems to work most efficiently and not wear yourself down. So I did the post check while I was talking to you. So hopefully you're doing your post check. Hands behind the back. Open up the chest 1 more time. Let things swing side to side. Now draw feet together, knees can go apart, with your chest open, lifting up. This is a version of the flower. And then we're going to close the flower by drawing the knees together, arms around, and you could tuck your chin in. So opening the flower and then closing the flower and opening the flower and closing it. So we're going to do this a different way now. When your hands are behind the back, the flower is closed. When the flower opens, you lean a little bit toward the front. So this is the opposite way. So in somatics, we try to work our body constantly in novel ways because that's how you create new neurological connections. It's a novelty. If you're constantly doing everything the same way, then you're just repatterning the same places. We want to develop new patterns. All right. How are you feeling? Let's sit and check in for a minute. Hmm. Hmm. I haven't done anything on hands and knees yet or on the belly. So if you want to set up, we'll do maybe just one or two things that way. You might want to, if you haven't put your blanket back on, you might want to do it now. Okay. So stretch one leg out and just shift this hip up and down. So my hip is dropping, my hip is engaged. My hip is dropping, my hip is engaged. Put that leg in and do the same thing with the other one. Drop the hip, lift the hip, drop the hip, lift the hip, drop and lift. Push completely back. Come onto the forearms and come through to the hand and come up. Push completely back through the forearms and come up. Now, if you need extra props to do a wide knee, either child's pose or puppy pose, I have placed something under my ankles. Some people like something between their thighs and their calves. So we're going to stretch back a little first in the middle. And then you're going to inch your way over to one side. So you can either have the butt in the air here or the butt down. The butt in the air is safer for people with low back issues. The butt down rounds the spine a little bit more, which can be a little trickier for some people. And then very slowly walk your way back to the middle and do one here in the middle. And then very slowly walk your way to the other side. So again, you should feel a little bit of a side pull under the armpits. Breathing. And we'll just do one or two on the belly poses. So take your time coming onto the belly. You can either put your arms straight in front or stack them. And then lift up whichever one you're doing.
And release.
And lift.
And release. Now, if you want to add in the lower body, you tuck your toes in, engage the knees,
And then lift up.
and soften, release. One last time.
Lift up.
And release. Go ahead and draw knee off to side. Taking a rest here. And maybe knee off to other side. Taking a rest. Sway the legs side to side. And you're either welcome to do the final meditation seated before Shavasana, or you can do the whole thing in a laying down position, depending on what you want to do.
So whichever one you're doing, let's take a minute or two to do another check-in. So we checked in at the very beginning of class, and now we're doing it again. What's going on in your body at this moment? Do you remember what you felt when you first started class? Are there any parts of the body feeling differently now? How's the breath? And how's the mind? Is the mind in a good place, calm? Have you been visualizing what you need to do to become the alpha wolf this year, your own alpha wolf? Striving for the attributes of an alpha wolf can lead to personal growth and success in various aspects of life. Strength, not merely physical strength, but mental fortitude. The alpha must maintain its position through mental acuity and emotional intelligence. In human terms, this translates to having the courage to face life challenges head on and develop the resilience to overcome obstacles. And developing the inner strength allows us to navigate all the complexities of life with confidence and determination. The alpha does not act on impulse, but rather makes calculated decisions for the benefit not only of themselves, but for their pack, whoever your pack is. The level of strategic thinking is crucial for anyone who is trying to develop internal leadership skills. So, okay. So going from that to a Mark Nepo reading. This reading is really lovely. It's called Simplicity. I have just 3 things to teach: simplicity, patience, compassion. These are your greatest treasures. Simple in actions and in thoughts, you return to the source of your being. And Lao Tzu said that in the 6th century BC. So Mark Nepo's talking about just one of the themes in today's reading, which is simplicity. But regarding the 3 as a whole, Let me confess that while stumbling along my own path, I found that I must continue learn and relearn these things, not just once, but again and again in deeper and deeper ways. They appear now like a spiral staircase, and with every step I find myself deeper in the life of my soul. So what does it mean to be simple? In a world that is complicated, we're often misled to believe that being simple is being stupid, when in truth, it holds the reward for living directly, which is that things appear at last as they really are. How many times have I seen the gestures of a loved one or a colleague and then struggled privately to uncover what it really meant? How many times have I done everything possible but ask directly? How often do I refuse to be direct, not saying what I mean, not showing what I feel, not letting the life around me really touch me? Amazingly, nothing else in nature is indirect. The leopard trying to scale a mountain strains and shows its effort. A frightened squirrel in a tree hovers and trembles, showing its fright. The wave mounting toward the shore saved nothing as it bows and spreads itself over and over against the shore that openly crumbles to be loved. Only humans say one thing and mean another. Only we go one way and wish we were somewhere else. Like so many other tasks that await us, the reward is hardly what we imagine. It seems that Lao Tzu reveals to us a secret tool of living, keeping secret by our own willingness to accept its truth. The ancient sage tells us quite openly that the act of simplicity, of living directly, is the doorway to the source of all being. So imagine if this is true, I implore you. When feeling lost or far away, try it. Try being direct, and the universe, without a word, will come alive. So in the last minute or two, breathe slowly. Recall a time when things were direct and uncomplicated. Now keep breathing slowly and recall a time when things were very indirect and a burden. As you inhale, feel the burden. As you exhale, feel the simplicity. What did the burden take from you? And what did the simplicity awaken in you? So as we're getting rid of stuff at this full moon, let's get rid of being indirect. And let's bring in being more direct and living directly and saying what we mean and just being our authentic self. So this signals the end of our time together. I hope it wasn't too loud. I'm trying to perfect the gong. Take your time. If you're not already seated, find your way into a seated position. Gather in any parts of today's practice that were particularly helpful to you. Draw hands to heart. Acknowledge each other and say namaste. And Sophie is doing her downward dog for us. hurt.